Welcome to Occult Archives. You know the place where we like to dust off those books that everybody always seems to be whispering about?
Right.
Those books that have, well, kind of sparked myths and legends for centuries. We're talking about everything from like those mystical grimoires, the ones promising forbidden power,
Right.
to those ancient religious texts that are rumored to hold, secrets too dangerous to be read.
Too dangerous, too profound, maybe both.
Exactly. And, well, today we are diving deep into one of those volumes. This is episode 192,
Okay.
Tarot of the Ages, the Occult Wisdom of S.L. MacGregor Mathers. Now, you've probably seen tarot cards before, right?
Sure.
Maybe even use them for, like, a little glimpse into the future, a bit of fun.
Of course.
But today, we are going to explore something much bigger.
Much bigger.
We're talking about the history, the significance.
The deep stuff.
The deep stuff, exactly.
The significance behind the cards.
Now, we're looking at it all through the eyes of Mathers and his 1888 work. Oh, cool.
We're going to uncover the occult significance that he saw in these cards, the fortune-telling techniques that he laid out.
Yeah.
And even, get this, a method for playing games with them.
What? Games with the tarot?
Games with the tarot.
I didn't realize you could do that.
Yeah. We're going to get into it.
Interesting.
So the source material we're using is S.L. MacGregor Mathers' own treatise. It's called The Tarot. It's occult significance, use in fortune-telling, and method of play, etc.
It's got it all in the title.
It does.
You
Really
missed
does.
1888.
1888. This book, it kind of gives you a fascinating glimpse into the mind of one of the key figures of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Mathers. He wanted to offer a clear, concise guide, not just to predicting the future with the cards, but to explore their deeper occult.
Right.
And really importantly for him, Qabalistic meanings.
Yeah.
When he talks about Qabalistic, he's drawing on Kabbalah. It's it's a mystical tradition.
And it explores all these hidden structures of the universe. It was like a central framework to how Mathers interpreted the tarot.
I see. So it wasn't just fortune-telling for him.
Not just fortune-telling.
Okay, gotcha.
So what we're giving you today is like a shortcut to Mathers' mind, really.
Right.
We're going to pull out all the good stuff from his work, all the juicy insights, and help you move beyond those simple, like, yes or no readings you might have seen before.
Like, does he love me?
Yeah, exactly. We're going deep. We're talking historical roots, symbolic language, all that good stuff. So, to kick things off, let's talk about origins. Where did Mathers think these cards even came from?
Okay.
Because, I got a feeling it's not as simple as some bored French king just inventing a game.
You are absolutely right. That story about Charles VI of France,
Yeah.
debunked. Mathers says it's just not true. And what's interesting is the guy who is supposed to have invented them, Jacques Ringeneur, he was an astrologer.
No way.
And a Kabbalist.
Get out of here.
Yeah, which hints that maybe, just maybe, there's a much older, more esoteric connection going on here.
Oh, this is getting good.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about some French court novelty here. We're talking about something that maybe goes back to the roots of Western occultism.
You got it.
Okay, so if not France, then where?
Well, Mathers lays out a couple of possibilities. He talks about India, even China, as potential birthplaces.
Fascinating.
And then there's this, how do I put it, this almost legendary claim by Itea,
Oh, yeah, Iteo.
who imagined the tarot laid out in, get this, the Temple of Ptah at Memphis.
No way.
Golden plates next to a sacred vase. It's like something out of, an Indiana Jones movie.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So Egypt's on the table,
Very much so.
but specifically a Kabbalistico-Egyptian origin.
Right. That was the big idea at the time, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Guys like Corte Gebelin, Eliphas Levi, they were all into it.
Interesting.
And Mathers says his own research backs this up.
So he's really placing himself within a specific tradition here.
Absolutely. A tradition that saw ancient Egypt as, the source of all this wisdom.
He even mentions this guy, W. Hughes Wilshire, who talked about these super old cards, with tarot-like characteristics found in Venice and Milan. So there are these hints, these little whispers from the past that point to the tarot being around way before the 14th century.
It's like a trail of breadcrumbs.
Right.
And then you have W.H. Chatto putting forward this theory of a Chinese invention way back around 1120 A.D., created for the amusement of an emperor's concubines, no less.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then Vaillant adds another layer to all of this, talking about these Chinese drawings based on, combinations of the number 7.
Okay, so lots of possibilities, lots of theories.
Lots of different threads to follow.
But Mathers, being Mathers, starts to see a pattern.
He does.
Right. He points to the structure of the tarot itself. The 10 numbers, right, the decimal scale, combined with what he calls the tetrad. Groups of 4, for anyone who's not familiar with the term.
Right.
And then there's this 22-symbol hieroglyphic alphabet. And he connects this to what he calls a mystic alphabet. And for Mathers, this intricate design, this framework, it screams ancient origin.
He's seeing something deeper than just like a random collection of cards.
Absolutely. What's really fascinating is he sees the tarot as the ancestor of modern playing cards.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, he sees those 4 suits, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, as the origin of clubs, hearts, spades, and diamonds.
Oh, I see. Like a direct lineage.
Exactly. And he even quotes Kurt de Gebelin, who makes this amazing analogy. He talks about this lost book from ancient Egypt filled with their most profound doctrines. And somehow it survives. It spreads across Europe for centuries, but no one recognizes what it really is.
So this book is just out there, hidden in plain sight.
Hidden in plain sight, and Gebelin's big reveal. This book, this treasure trove of wisdom, it's the tarot. 78 leaves, illustrations divided into 5 classes. Amazing, right?
Wow. That's quite a claim. So we've got these intriguing and sometimes, contradictory ideas about where the tarot came from. But what about the word itself?
Tarot.
Tarot. What did Mathers and the people he was reading think that actually meant?
Well, this is where things get a little, speculative.
Sure.
Mathers was really into etymology.
Oh, yeah.
So he digs deep, referencing all these different interpretations. Kurt de Gebelin, for example, he offers this very poetic Egyptian origin.
Okay.
Tar, meaning path, and then aro, or rog, meaning royal.
So tarot would be like the royal path of life.
Royal path of life, exactly. Gebelin also suggests mat is an Oriental word, meaning, like overpowered or maybe even crack-brained. And then pagad, he interprets as chief or master combined with fortune. It's like he's trying to find these grand hidden meanings in the name itself.
Interesting. So Gebelin is trying to tie the name back to these profound concepts.
Yeah, exactly. And then Vaillant jumps in, connecting it to the goddess Ashtaroth, suggesting a link to the Indo-Tartar Tantara, and even the zodiac. It's like everyone's trying to crack this ancient code, but there's no clear consensus on where the word really came from.
It's a puzzle with many missing pieces.
Right.
So what's Mathers' take on all this?
Well, he offers his own unique interpretation, one that he hadn't found anywhere else.
Okay.
He goes back to this ancient Egyptian hieroglyph, taru, and he translates it as to require an answer or to consult.
Interesting.
So for Mathers, tarot basically means that which is consulted or from which an answer is required. And he even thinks that final T is a feminine hieroglyphic ending.
Okay.
So it's a very practical, functional interpretation of the name.
Right.
But Mathers doesn't stop there.
Oh, of course not.
No. He then throws in these fascinating letter shifts, these metatheses, as he calls them.
Right.
So we get words like Torah, the Hebrew word for law, Tra, Hebrew for gate, Rota, the Latin word for wheel, Rat, Latin for it speaks, and then he circles back to Egyptian with Teor, the goddess of darkness, and Ator, Egyptian Venus. It's like he's trying to connect all these different ancient languages and spiritual concepts to uncover this hidden thread running through them.
So the word tarot becomes this kind of crossroads where different traditions and ideas meet.
Exactly. And he even brings in this Zen word, terisk, which also means to require an answer. It paints this picture of a word carrying this sense of seeking knowledge or seeking guidance across so many different cultures.
Fascinating.
So whether it's a royal path, a divine name, or simply something you consult for answers, the word tarot definitely held a lot of weight for Mathers and his contemporaries.
Oh, it wasn't just a random name.
Not at all. So we've talked about the origins, the etymology, but now let's get practical.
Okay.
What exactly does a tarot pack look like according to Mathers?
Right.
Because it's not just your average deck of cards, is it?
No, not quite.
So Mathers says a tarot pack has 78 cards. 78.
Okay. And they're divided into 4 suits.
Like regular playing cards.
Similar, but with a twist.
Yeah.
Each suit has 14 cards. That's one more court card than a standard deck. It's the Cavalier.
Cavalier.
Yeah, also known as the Knight or Horseman.
Okay.
And then on top of that, you have the 22 symbolic picture cards, We usually call them the Major Arcana.
Right.
Or the Trumps.
The Trumps.
These are numbered 1 to 21, with the 22nd card being the Fool, marked with a 0.
Okay.
And the suits themselves, well, they have different names depending on where you are.
Interesting.
Mathers, he's very helpful. He gives us the Italian, French, and English equivalents.
Oh, cool.
So we've got bastoni in Italian, becomes batons in French, and in English we know them as wands, scepters, or clubs.
Okay.
Then there's coupé in Italian, coupes in French, and in English they're cups, chalices, or goblets.
All right.
Then we've got spade in Italian, épées in French, and of course, swords in English.
And lastly, denari in Italian, denier in French, and in English, they're money, circles, or pentacles.
Gotcha. It's interesting how the different names kind of highlight different aspects, don't they?
Yeah. Some focus on the physical object, like swords or clubs. Others are more about ideas, like cups or chalices, which maybe suggest emotions or feelings. And then there are the ones that are about, like, resources or material things, like money or pentacles. So within each suit, you have the familiar cards, ace, deuce through 10.
Right.
And then those court cards, knave or fanti or valet, knight, cavallo, queen, dama or reine, and king, rey.
Okay.
And Mathers, being the detail-oriented guy he was, he even points out some really interesting visual details.
Oh, like what?
Well, for instance, he noticed that in traditional decks, the kings in all the suits are wearing this cap of maintenance under their crowns.
Right.
But the queens, they're just wearing the crown. And then there's the Queen of Pentacles and the Knave of Scepters. They're the only court cards shown in profile. It's like these little visual cues might be hinting at some deeper symbolic meaning.
Oh, I see. Like the way they're depicted is telling us something.
Exactly.
Fascinating. So Mathers is reading into all these tiny details.
Oh, yeah. He's leaving no stone unturned. He also talks about the symbolism specific to each suit, particularly in those court cards.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So in the Scepter's suit, the king, he's holding a wand, just like the ones on the numbered cards.
Okay.
But the other court cards in that suit, they're carrying bludgeons.
Bludgeons?
Yeah, which look a lot like the Ace of Scepters.
Huh. So the king is different.
Exactly. And then you've got the cup suit, where only the queen's cup is covered.
That is interesting.
Mathers sees this as representing the receptive feminine qualities of the suit.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
And this contrasts with the King of Scepters and his exposed wand, which Mathers interprets as a symbol of, masculinity.
Interesting. So it's not just the objects themselves, it's how they're used or presented that adds layers of meaning.
Exactly. And then we get to the deuces.
Oh, the deuces. What's special about them?
Yeah, Mathers points out that they're all a little bit peculiar.
Okay.
Like they each have their own little symbolic scene going on.
Give me an example.
Sure. So the Deuce of Scepters, it shows a cross formed by two wands decorated with roses and lilies, specifically the Rose of Sharon and the Lily of the Valley.
Wow, he's really getting into the details.
Oh, yeah. Then there's the Deuce of Cups, which shows two cups standing on a paved surface. And between them, there's this caduceus-like symbol. It has these lion-headed foliations that Mathers says remind him of the Gnostic Chnufus serpent and elemental spirits.
Okay, now that's getting pretty esoteric.
It is, right. But Mathers is clearly seeing these deeper occult connections in even the smallest details. The Deuce of Swords, he describes it as a vesica piscis, which is that almond shape you get when two circles intersect. And inside, there's this mystic rose made of the primary colors.
Okay, I can sort of picture that.
And lastly, the Deuce of Pentacles, it's shown bound by this continuous band that forms a figure 8.
A figure 8?
Yep. And Mathers sees that as a symbol of correspondence, like how the universe reflects the divine idea.
Oh, that's deep.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So we've got all these deuces with their unique symbolism, but then we get to the aces. And Mathers, he calls them the key of their suit.
The key?
Yeah, like they hold the essential energy or meaning.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the Ace of Scepters, he compares it to Hercules' club.
Wow.
And it's surrounded by 8 yod-shaped leaves. Yod is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's topped with a triad symbol representing 3 lopped branches. For Mathers, this symbolizes almighty strength within the structure of the universe. The Ace of Cups, he sees this as having this Egyptian vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the Spanish tarot decks where there's this inverted M on the front.
Okay.
And Mathers sees this as a remnant of twin serpents. And he interprets this as representing the waters of creation from the book of Genesis.
Okay.
That fundamental power that shapes everything.
Wow.
Then there's the Ace of Swords, which shows a crowned sword flanked by an olive branch for mercy and a palm branch for severity. And it's surrounded by 6 Hebrew yods, representing the 6 days of creation. For Mathers, this is all about justice maintaining order through this balance of mercy and severity.
That's a powerful image.
It is.
What of the Ace of Pentacles?
The Ace of Pentacles.
Yeah.
Mathers says it represents eternal synthesis.
Eternal synthesis.
Yeah. The wholeness of the universe, the culmination of perfectly balanced power.
I like that.
So we've covered the suits, but now let's move on to the real showstoppers, the 22 trumps. You know, those big, bold, sometimes confusing images.
Oh, yeah, the Major Arcana.
Exactly. And Mathers doesn't see these as just random pictures.
Okay.
He argues that they're actually hieroglyphic symbols. And get this, each one corresponds to a letter of the Hebrew alphabet.
Real?
Yeah. He even provides a table in his book mapping out this connection to Kabbalistic thought.
That's fascinating.
It is, right.
So let's dive into some of these symbols. What's Mathers' take on, say, the first one, the juggler?
Okay, so the juggler, sometimes called the magician, he's usually shown standing in front of this table, covered in tools.
Okay.
He's got a wand or sometimes a cup,
Okay.
one hand pointing up to the sky,
Okay.
the other pointing down to the earth.
Right.
And he's often wearing this cap that looks like an aureole. Mathers says his whole posture forms the shape of the Hebrew letter Aleph.
Aleph, okay.
Which represents will.
So the juggler is all about willpower.
Absolutely.
What about the second card?
The second card is the High Priestess, or sometimes she's called the Female Pope. She's usually shown crowned and veiled, like she's holding the secret knowledge.
Okay.
She's got this stole, or a solar cross, on her chest, and she's holding an open book. For Mathers, she embodies science, wisdom, and knowledge. The third card is the Empress. She's usually depicted as winged crowned, sitting on a throne.
Okay.
She's holding a scepter with a globe and a cross on top, and her other hand is resting on a shield with an eagle on it. Mathers interprets her as the symbol of action.
Action?
Yeah, like the dynamic force that comes from combining science and will.
Interesting.
Then there's her counterpart, card number 4, the Emperor.
The Emperor.
Yeah, he's also crowned, usually leaning on a throne with his legs crossed in a specific way. He's often holding a shield with an eagle and a scepter. Mathers says his posture actually forms a triangle above a cross.
Okay.
And he represents realization, bringing those ideas from the Empress into being.
I see. So the Emperor is about taking action and making things happen.
Exactly. Card number 5 is the Hierophant, or the Pope. He's got this papal tiara, and he's sitting between 2 pillars, the pillars of Hermes and Solomon, which are, really important in occultism. He's making this esoteric sign with his right hand, and he's leaning on a staff with a triple cross. And kneeling before him are these 2 ministers. Mathers sees him as the symbol of mercy and beneficence.
Interesting.
Now, card number 6, the Lovers. Mathers has a slightly different interpretation than what you might typically hear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. While it's often seen as like a choice between good and bad or vice and virtue,
Right.
he goes in a more Kabbalistic direction.
Okay.
He sees it as microprosopis, which is this Kabbalistic concept standing between Bina, which is understanding, and Malkuth, the material world, with influence flowing down from Kether, the crown. He suggests it represents wise disposition, like aligning yourself with these higher forces.
That's a different take.
Yeah. Then we've got card number 7, the Chariot. This one, Mathers says, the real meaning was restored by Eliphas Levi.
Okay.
So it shows this conqueror, he's crowned, he's holding a scepter, and he's standing in a chariot with 4 pillars and a canopy.
Okay.
The chariot's being pulled by 2 horses, or sometimes sphinxes, looking in opposite directions. And it represents triumph, specifically the victory of justice.
Victory of justice.
Yeah. Okay. Card number 8 is Justice herself.
Okay.
She's usually shown as this crowned woman sitting on a throne holding a sword and scales. Pretty straightforward. She symbolizes equilibrium and justice.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The Hermit, card number 9, he's this old bearded guy wrapped in a cloak carrying a lantern. The lantern symbolizes occult knowledge.
Okay.
And he often has a hidden magic wand, which represents, hidden power. He embodies prudence.
Prudence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Card number 10 is the Wheel of Fortune.
The Wheel of Fortune.
And Mathers specifically says it should have 7 spokes, not 8.
Oh, okay.
It's shown spinning between these 2 uprights with figures going up and down, and sometimes there's a sphinx or an angel at the top.
Right.
It represents fortune, good or bad.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Card number 11 is strength.
Strength.
Or fortitude. It shows this crowned woman, and she's closing the jaws of a lion with her bare hands. It's all about inner strength, overcoming your base instincts. The Hanged Man, card number 12, he's a striking image.
Oh, yeah, he's a weird one.
Yeah, he's hanging upside down by one foot, his body forming a triangle, his legs crossed. Mathers says he symbolizes sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, like giving something up for a greater good. Card number 13 is death.
Death.
But Mathers emphasizes it's not necessarily literal death.
Okay.
It's more about transformation, big change. Card number 14 is temperance. She's depicted as an angel pouring liquid between two vessels, and she often has the sign of the sun on her forehead.
Okay.
She represents combination, balance, bringing different things together harmoniously.
Interesting.
The devil, card number 15, he's a classic image.
Yeah.
Horns, wings, standing on an altar with two smaller devils chained to it.
Right.
He's got this flame-headed scepter, and he represents fate or fatality.
Okay.
Those things that bind us.
What about card 16?
Card 16 is the tower, or the lightning-struck tower.
Oh, yeah, the dramatic one.
Exactly. It's this tower, often with a crown on top, being struck by lightning with people falling out of it. It symbolizes ruin, sudden disruption. The star, card number 17, offers a bit of hope after that.
Okay, good.
It shows a naked woman kneeling, pouring water from two vases. There's a big star above her and 7 smaller ones.
Right.
And below her, there are plants growing and a butterfly. She represents hope.
Yeah.
The moon, card number 18, is a little more shadowy. It shows the moon in the sky, dew falling, a wolf, and a dog howling. And there's this path between 2 towers leading to the horizon with drops of blood and a crayfish coming out of the water.
Wow, that's a lot going on.
It is. Mathers says it symbolizes twilight, deception, error, like those illusions that can cloud our judgment.
Okay.
The sun, card number 19, brings back some positivity. It's shining brightly on 2 children who are often interpreted as Gemini. They're behind a low wall, and it signifies earthly happiness, vitality. Card number 20 is judgment. It shows an angel blowing a trumpet, holding a flag with a cross on it, and people are rising from their graves. It signifies renewal, the final outcome. The Fool, he's number 0, which puts him outside the numbered sequence. He's dressed like a jester, carrying a stick and a bag, and he doesn't seem to notice the butterfly leading him toward a cliff or the animal attacking him from behind. He represents folly and expiation.
Okay.
The beginning of the journey, with all its innocence and potential for mistakes. And lastly, card number 21, the World.
The World.
It often shows a naked woman in a wreath of flowers holding wands in each hand. And she's surrounded by those 4 symbolic creatures from the apocalypse. The eagle, the man, the lion, and the bull.
Right.
She represents completion, the reward at the end of the journey.
Right.
So that's all 22 trumps. But Mathers doesn't see them as just a random collection of images.
Right.
He sees them as a story, a journey of human consciousness.
A story.
Yeah, it's like a symbolic roadmap.
Okay, I like that.
He sees it as this unfolding. It starts with human will, represented by the magician.
Okay.
Then comes enlightenment through science with the high priestess. That leads to action with the empress and the realization of those actions with the emperor.
Right.
And then we move to mercy and beneficence with the Hierophant.
Okay.
And then wise disposition with the lovers helps us navigate the challenges of life, leading to victory, represented by the chariot. From there, we find equilibrium through justice.
Okay.
And learn prudence from the hermit.
Okay.
We face the ups and downs of fortune and find strength within ourselves. Sacrifice, represented by the Hanged Man, helps us overcome death.
Okay.
Leading to a harmonious combination represented by temperance. We might even defy fate itself, represented by the devil.
Wow.
But even if we encounter deception and error along the way, the Star of Hope guides us toward earthly happiness.
Interesting.
And ultimately, our actions lead to a final result, represented by judgment. But if we make foolish choices, well, we might end up with a negative outcome. A fool's reward.
So it's a journey with all the twists and turns, ups and downs that life throws at us.
Exactly. It's like Mathers saw the Major Arcana as reflecting the journey we all take, in one way or another.
Yeah, that's pretty insightful.
So we've seen how Mathers interprets the symbolism of the cards, but what about actually using them for fortune-telling?
Right.
Mathers gives very specific instructions for that. He recommends writing down the meanings of each card, both upright and reversed. He says put the upright meaning at the top of the card and the reversed meaning at the bottom. So when you lay the cards out, you know exactly what they mean.